I'm going to make a video for beginners, new property owners. You just bought yourself your first chainsaw and you're out there thinking you got some trees you need to cut down, and you watch a couple videos. They show you how to cut a wedge, how to back cut, and then the tree falls over. And that's good. It's good that you're gonna push your experiences like that. But I wanted to make a video about some of the situations. I am not a tree expert or tree cutting expert. I've cut a lot of trees. I have a lot of experience doing it. I am definitely not an expert. There's trees that even I won't mess with, but that's the difference between having a little bit of experience and a whole lot of experience. And I'm trying to get you from the point of having no experience to what to watch out for, things you're not going to want to mess around with. Now, this was a tree. Obviously, you can see it was dead. I knew this going in, but it needed to come down. I have two buildings right here by this tree, and it was only a matter of time before this thing fell over and destroyed one of my buildings. Now, it's kind of hard to see, but you can see I looked over this tree carefully, and my decision was the best approach was I wanted it to fall that way, and it did fall that way, but my best approach was to cut a notch into here. And I see all this rot out of the center of the tree. I didn't see this, okay? So I started cutting my notch. My intention was to cut my notch in here and then a bigger notch up above and then back cut this way to let the tree fall over. Okay, so I got my notch cut in here, and I seen this once the notch was in there, and that got me a little worried right off. But it was on my notch side. So when you're looking at this from the outside, this looks like, you couldn't see this. So this looked like it was at least enough to give me a hinge point. What happened when I started cutting this tree, I got my notch cut in, and I come over here to start doing my back cut from this side. And you can see I didn't get but this far into this tree. I had that much space between my notch and the tree. I didn't get but this far. And this whole tree, it didn't just snap. It literally exploded. It exploded. And I mean, pieces of bark and stuff went flying everywhere. The tree smashed down that way, the way I wanted it to. But it was a scary situation. I'll go over here and show you this. So here was the top of the tree. And you can see, this is the part that I just showed you where it exploded. That was hopefully going to be my hinge point. And it did somewhat serve as a hinge point. But if you see a tree, and this is what I was looking at before I cut it. But if you see a tree that looks like this, you're probably not going to want to mess with it. I'm going to show you some other examples of things to watch out for. Okay, here's another example of things you want to watch out for. It's not so much that this tree would be dangerous to cut. I'm not going to cut this tree. It's actually pretty healthy, but notice this and this. I'm going to show you another one over here. You want to watch out for that kind of stuff, because what's going on there, and we're going to come over to this tree here, and you'll notice a similar scar in the tree. See that scar? It's a little less pronounced down here, but it's still down there. Okay, what that's a sure sign of is that one time there was a fence and somebody used the tree as their fence post. And I've got this over here to keep my dogs from getting into this, but if you look at this mess, this is all old barbed wire, and it's half buried into the ground. That's why rather than picking it all up, I've just got this over here for now. I'm waiting for the ground to get really wet so that I can pull it out of the ground a lot easier and clean this mess up. But it's an old barbed wire fence that used to run through this property. And parts of that barbed wire are still in the tree. So the problem with that is when you go cutting in there with your chainsaw blade, you're going to hit that metal barbed wire inside that tree. So you really want to keep an eye out for that. It's something to watch out for. You see marks on a tree like that. Here's a tree that has grown since that had happened. Let's see if I can walk down here and get a good picture of it. Now, look at that. Way up in the tree. You can see 1, 2, 3 marks where the fence came up. And that's a good 16 feet up there. So, when you're, this one probably wouldn't be a problem cutting down, but when you go cutting it up into your firewood or whatever, you want to keep an eye out for marks in the tree like that, because there's probably still metal from the fence or barbed wire still stuck in that tree. All right. Let's go see some more examples of things you better watch out for before you go cutting into a tree. Okay, this is that same type of tree as that first one I showed you. And you can see the bottom of this one doesn't look too bad. The problem I have with this tree is twofold. One, this is called a princess tree. And like all things invasive, they originally came from Asia. And it's become an invasive tree. What this thing does is it shoots out roots in every direction, and then the roots pop up and grow new trees off the roots. And this thing gets these humongous, I can't show you both hands, but it gets these huge leaves. They're kind of heart-shaped, or they look like giant elephant ears. And the leaves are just massive on these things. And what they do is they shade out all the other trees and all the other plants so that they can't get any sunlight just because of these massive leaves. All right. Well, this, other than being invasive, you can also see I'm putting in a fence right there. And this tree has got a really, I don't know if I can show you it good in the video, but it's got a really wicked lean, and all of its weight is going that way right towards my fence. So I would love to have this tree down before the day comes when it falls on my fence and does some damage. But here's the problem with this tree. Look carefully. You can see there's some dead spots in it. We go up here, see if I can zoom in. See those holes? The woodpeckers have just been eating this tree up because it's dead. So that tells me that that's a sure sign that the whole inside of this tree is going to be hollow. And it doesn't sound hollow, but I can just about guarantee it is. So from my experience with the other one just exploding when I tried to cut it, I am not going to mess with this tree. This is one that's well beyond worth taking the risk for me. I'm just going to wait until it falls on the fence, and it'll be safer for me to just fix the fence rather than cut this tree down now before I put the fence in. But it definitely needs to come down. These big dead limbs on it, and like I said, you can see where the woodpeckers have just ate away at it. So I just know the entire inside of that, there's probably this much wood going around the outside where you see. So when you go cutting your chainsaw in there, there's nothing holding that tree together. It's just going to go wherever it wants to go. It's going to shatter. It's going to barber chair. it's going to be a dangerous situation. You want to stay away from the dangerous situations when you're cutting trees, because it can kill you in the blink of an eye. Let's go look at some more though. Okay, this tree is one I'm just going to let it go. It's actually a healthy maple tree. And, you know, in the spring and the summer, it gets full of leaves, and it's actually pretty healthy other than at the base of it. And what I would guess had happened here at one time was there was a second tree that grew up right next to it, and they kind of grew around each other, and that second tree long ago died. There's no signs of it really. Maybe that's part of it down there, but here's another one that, you know, it's a big tree. If I had to cut this one, I might consider it at my skill level. I'd be really careful about it. I mean, you can see it's rotten up the center, probably all the way up in there. And this is a good sized tree. I mean, we're talking, that's a good 3 feet, 3.5 feet across this thing. So I can see the rot is right about here. So I do have quite a bit on this backside. It does look like the tree itself is starting to buckle back here. Like eventually it's probably just gonna snap and fall over on its own, which is okay as long as I'm not standing here when that happens. But definitely not a good situation to be close to your house or your building or anything. You'd probably want to consider hiring a professional to take this tree out for you. I wouldn't recommend even somebody with my skill level. I'd be pushing my limits trying to take that tree down. Here's one where I don't even think a tree cutting expert would mess with. I'm not sure what you would do about this situation. If this is a massive beech tree. This thing is huge. And we're probably, again, you can't tell in the video, but we're probably easily 3.5, I would say closer to 4 feet across on this tree. This tree is huge. And this is what beech trees do. I hate beech trees. The wood ain't good for anything. They're not good firewood. They're not good cooking wood. I can see somebody years ago cut an X in this tree, marking it as probably one they should be cutting down. And then their better judgment got the best of them. But if you look at this tree, you can go all the way through this tree. My daughter can actually stand inside this hole if she wanted to. And it is rotten. Let's see if I can get the camera to show us inside of here. That thing is rotten all the way around and all the way up. There's just about nothing on the outside of this tree holding it together. There is no way you could cut any kind of wedge into this tree. No matter where you cut, there is nothing going to be holding. And that tree is massive. I can't imagine how much that tree weighs. You know, it's, like I said, it's 4 feet from here to here going across that tree. So it's a massive tree, and the entire inside of it is completely rotted out. To be honest with you, I don't even know what's holding this thing up. These big limbs will drop off of it. And just randomly, you would think it happens when the weather gets bad, but let's see if I can. Yeah, you can see even the limbs, these giant limbs on it, are rotted all the way through. So that thing's hollow all the way down, just like that. This is a tree that probably should not be messed with, even by a professional. I don't know how a professional would safely go about cutting that tree down. I can't imagine. Maybe the pictures aren't doing it justice, but this tree is a disaster waiting to happen. It's gonna kill somebody. It's too big to push over with the excavator or the bulldozer. Luckily, the only risk with this tree falling right now is this is where my septic field is. So I don't know, we won't, you know, again, it's one of those things. It's safer and easier for me to repair any damage to my septic lines. This is my drain field. It's safer and easier for me to repair any damage to my septic line than to even consider taking this down. Yeah, I don't even think I would ask a professional to mess with this tree. It's just one, it's been this way for a long time, but I don't think it's gonna stay this way much longer. So that's kind of obvious, you know, if you're a beginner, but just in case, you don't want to go messing with something like that, because this is completely unpredictable what's going to happen when you just start even barely cutting into a tree like this. So let's go look at some. I got a couple more dangerous situations to look at. Now this was a really healthy maple tree. It was straight. It's not like it was leaning when this happened, but we had an ice storm, and for some reason the weight of the ice, I got smaller trees and bigger trees all around. Why it decided this one tree, I don't know. You can see we're clean wood inside here. There's no rot. Everything's splintered, healthy. Wow. Everything's splintered, nice and healthy. Even all the way down here, there's no rot in this tree, but it snapped, is obvious. Okay, and you think, well, this tree's already on the ground, so that's a safe one to cut up. I don't get a lot of use for maple trees. Let's see, we got a little bit of rot in the center now. It looked like it at first, but actually that's not rot. That's just a clean wood in there. Snap the roots off. You can. This is where the root was once attached down here. It completely ripped that root, but it fell over, and you're thinking, okay, well that one's safe and easy to cut because it's already on the ground. But look what it did. When it fell over, it had this domino effect all the way down the hill. I'll go down there, but we're going to talk about this in a minute. And here's why you don't want to go just cutting into something like this. All right? I'm sure you're not going to be able to tell in this video. I'm going to walk down here. But I'm 6 foot tall. And you can see I'm nowhere near the top of that. This is the root ball from a tree that this one, when it broke, hit this tree and completely uprooted it. So now we have a 20-foot tall root ball. As you see, that if my hand here is level, you can see the angle that this whole root ball is leaning this way. That thing probably weighs easily as much as a dump truck. Here's the bottom of the tree. Look at that. Just completely uprooted this tree. And everything is leaning this way downhill. All right, so the problem here is, yeah, that thing's laying on the ground, but as soon as you go to cut this, you got nothing supporting all that root ball right there, and it is going to literally roll right over on top of you. So that becomes a problem. And we have the same situation going all the way down here. What a mess. Good, healthy trees. These trees are probably 80 to 100 years old. This root ball is even bigger here. It is all the way up to here. You can see the tree laying on top of it. What a mess. What a mess. I do want to do something with this. I don't believe these trees here are just rotting like this, and one, I hate looking at it, but look at this, all these root balls. And you'll see, when you go to cut something like that, that root ball is gonna fall on you. It's not just gonna stay there. Look at this. This tree's massive. This tree here was easily 100 years old. It won't live another 100 years. Let's see what we got here. Maybe a beech. Possibly a beech. You can usually tell by looking at the bark what kind of tree it is, but not always. They can deceive you. I've got a couple maple trees. You'd swear they were shagbark hickories. And then when you get up there, when they develop their leaves, wow, what a mess. This wood ain't even good for really anything. I like to use these big, massive trunks for erosion control on the hills here. They really work good. You lay them across the hill, and everything that washes down the hill builds up on them and does pretty good erosion control. So I got some massive damage there on that tree, going all the way down. It hit this tree but didn't take it out, but it shattered the base of this tree. This would be one that would be extremely dangerous to cut. Fortunately, it's not in a place where I need to do any cutting, but it shattered this tree all the way down but didn't knock it over, which is kind of worse. Given the choice, if I had to cut a tree like this and risk the root ball falling on me, or cut a tree like this, I would rather risk the root ball falling on me. But these root balls are just massive. Even if I hooked the rope or chains from I've got a 1-ton dually diesel truck that weighs a lot, but with a winch on it. And even if I hooked the winch and tried pulling uphill with the winch, I got a feeling that root ball would fall over and just pull my truck right down the hill with it. So, not sure what we're gonna do with this yet. This is the first time I actually walked all the way down here to look at this. I've seen it from above. I thought I had a couple hickories and maple in here, but I'm seeing now that that's not the case. So if there were a couple hickories and maples in here, I would be wanting, well, a little hickory up there, or hickories and walnuts. Maple and beech, it's pretty much useless wood. It's not worth my trouble to do anything with it other than erosion control, and I don't think I'm going to risk my life for erosion control there. I'd rather have the erosion. But I thought maybe it was I think that top one's probably a hickory. I have to get up there closer to look at it. Like I said, just looking at the bark can be deceptive, believe it or not. Yeah, that's a shagbark hickory all the way up in there. So I am going to take that one out. And here's the base of it. That one's not going to be too dangerous to cut. That root ball's not going anywhere. I'll probably cut that one and drag it up the hill with the winch on my truck, because it's a small tree right there, but I can get $1,500 out of that little tree right there. Just cutting it up into logs and selling it. We've got 3 local barbecue restaurants that wood cook all their food, and they pay me pretty good premiums for hickory and black walnut. Nobody wants the beech, which is what that thing is. I kind of hate beech trees anyhow. When you try to burn this beech wood, it leaves this black sooty oil on everything. It does not leave a good taste in your food. I wouldn't want to burn it in a fireplace. I mean, it'd be okay for like a outdoor bonfire or something like that, but definitely not good firewood. Definitely not good cooking wood. But let's see what else we got down here. This is definitely the type of thing you don't want to go messing with. Now, if I did have to cut this, I would probably start at the bottom, work my way up, because those trees are laying on that root ball. So that's hopefully going to keep that root ball from wanting to fall over. And then get to the other side of it, cut the tree that's holding it, let the root ball fall down the hill. But I don't see, looks like possibly another walnut way down at that one. Wow, that thing's way down there. I'll never get that up that hill, even with the winch on my truck. Okay, that's the top of the hickory I just seen. So I am going to take that hickory tree out of there and sell that. Like I said, that's $1,500, $2,000 right there. Easy money, easy money. It cuts real easy, it splits real easy. Couple pickup truck loads, and I'll make some money off of that one. Let's see, we got more down here. Here's another big, that's a great big red oak. They don't like using it for cooking wood, but red oak's a pretty good wood for wood if you were milling it, if you had a sawmill. I don't have a sawmill. I've got enough projects going on. I think a sawmill's going to be last on my list. There's another big, what do we got there? Another great big, either a maple or a beech. It looks like a maple. There's another good one to show for things not what to cut. This is a steep hill. I'm going to turn this camera off and I'll turn it back on when it. Okay, yeah, so it's a maple, and that's a lot of tree. That one's probably about 16 inches across. It's not a small tree, but you can see it snapped right up there, and it's got a lot of weight leaning right here. So this would be another dangerous situation even I would stay away from. If I had to deal with this mess right here, I can't even get my truck near this with my winch. And the hills are so steep, you can't drive equipment down in here. Hey, Wolf, where'd you go? Hang on, I lost my dog. Wolf! Where she is, I'll have to find her here in a minute. She kills somebody. But this is a dangerous one, because what's going to happen when you try to cut the base of this trunk up, and we're about 14 feet up is where this thing actually snapped. So when you try cutting this, it's completely unpredictable what that's going to do. And you can kind of look at it, and if I had to guess, I would say it's going to want to roll that direction, but you just never know for sure. Things can be deceiving. And the other problem is when you go cutting in down here, that thing is just about guaranteed to want a barber chair and kick out. And that's not a situation you really want to be in. So I think that pretty much covers dangerous trees you kind of want to look out for. And, okay, I see her. Hey, Wolf, get over here. Again, here's a great big red oak. Wow. You know, we've had tornadoes and high winds and torrential rainstorms and everything else. And leave it to an ice storm to do this much damage down here. Unbelievable. Just from ice. So there's another one. This one is fully leaning over. If I wanted to get this red oak out of here, I've got no way to get a tree this big up the hill. But if I did want to get this wood out of here and salvage some of this wood, I would probably, I'd come down here and maybe cut it in here. And then when it did fall over, this part of the trunk would hit the ground. And the whole thing might want to roll one way or the other, but that's not something that happens instantaneously. I would have enough time to probably get out of the way. I'd be definitely watching it while I was cutting rather than watching my cut. But yeah, that's some good wood right there too. I like red oak. It's got this black tar gets on your hands, but it's otherwise a really good wood. Really pretty. What we got? A cedar tree down here that came out. So, hey, get back over here. Yeah, that's a lot of red oak right there. There's just no way to get that up the hill with any kind of reason. So that one's gonna have to go. I might have came down here so we can get another angle of this one. Maybe you can get a little bit better idea from the video what you're watching out for. Yeah, look at that. See, it looked before like it was gonna roll that way, but if you look at that trunk, it's got a really wicked twist and lean going this way. So that thing could literally go either way if you started cutting into that trunk. You're gonna wanna stay away from that. I've got a come along. Maybe I would hook a chain in my come along. It's a pretty heavy duty come along I have. It's not just some little chintzy thing, but I might do that, hook to the base of, or hook to one of these trees laying on the ground here and get some tension pulling it in the direction I want it to go. I would probably want it to go that way. So I could hook to the base of that big tree down there, wrap a tree saver around the bottom of the tree, crank up a bunch of tension with my come along and get that thing to want to lean. But I don't have to cut this tree, so it's gonna stay like that until it falls naturally. So yep, my wolf disappeared again. I better go find her. She gets herself in trouble if I don't. All right, that's it. I'm gonna conclude this. Hopefully you got a good idea of things to watch out for, especially if you're a beginner at cutting trees. One more quick shot. I just noticed the bottom of this root ball. I've been fencing a big section of my property here to keep the dogs honest. They could jump over the fence, but this is, I've been fencing on this steep terrain. I've got a set of videos about fencing on steep terrain. Here's what I've been running into. I can get down about 1.5 feet, 2 feet into my dirt just fine. And then it gets really tough. And here's why. There's a real good view of what's about 1.5 feet, 2 feet down under all my property. That is solid rock. And I have been, you're not gonna get an auger bit through that. So I have been chipping away, trying to get my post down to 3 feet. So I've been chipping through 18 inches to 1 foot of that. 16 inches around just to get my fence posts set all the way down. But that's what the bottom of my fence posts are setting in. A hole that I chipped away in all this rock. You can see it. So anyhow, that concludes this video.